Welcome to the Salt Strong Fishing Podcast. Salt Strong has been helping saltwater anglers catch more fish in less time for 10 years and is now the largest and most trusted saltwater fishing community in America. If you want to catch more saltwater fish, then keep listening. If you want to speed up your fish catching results even faster, then join the private insider community at saltstrong.com. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Life only goes in one direction. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, Like Diamonds, back again with Salt Strong Unchurched. Hope you're having an amazing day, depending on what day you're listening to this. I just finished a book called Bubble in the Sun. It is by Christopher Naughton, and it's the Florida boom of the 1920s, the Florida real estate boom in particular, and how it brought on the Great Depression. My good friend Lynn had recommended this book to me. She knows I love history, and obviously I'm a Floridian, born and raised, one of the few, and so was my dad, and so was my brother and my son, and my grandfather moved here too and made it 94, so you could mostly call him a Floridian, but I've always been interested in Florida. We've got a unique history here in Florida with our family. My great grandfather, spent all of his life here in Florida, and mostly in Central Florida area. And this book, one, it was fascinating just to hear about how crazy everything was in the 1920s. It obviously started off pretty fast paced and just some wild stories about the land boom. I mean, if you think things are crazy today, or let's just say the last 5-6 years, because it has been crazy. If you live in Florida, and probably, I'm guessing most places in the South, if you're in Texas, North Carolina, any area that has a lot of people moving to it, it's felt like it's been bonkers. And seeing real estate prices go up and up and up, it is a joke compared to what they went through. They would have prices double in a 24-hour period. I mean, think about that. There were people going down and getting land sight unseen, like down in Miami, which was honestly just a swamp. It was all part of the Everglades for the most part. And they were people that would bid, let's just say, $500 or $1,000 on an acre, sight unseen, and then the next day sell it for $3,000. And then that person could then sell it for like $8,000 just a week or so later. I mean, it was absolutely bonkers. It made no sense. And as you can imagine, anytime you have some sort of mania like that, a bubble, which is the name of the book, Bubble in the Sun, it burst. And this thing burst really, really bad. And one of the main guys, there's a couple of them, Fisher, named after Fisher Island, and a few others that, I mean, were technically some of the richest people on paper at the time, and just never really took chips off the table and kind of let greed get to them, I guess is the nicest way to say it. And we're just throwing lavish parties and just doubling and tripling down on this land because they figured it could never go down. It could only keep going up. And many of them, including Fisher and Singer. So Singer Island is another island down there in that Miami area. And then also the guy, I'm blanking on his name, but he basically created Coral Gables. That whole area was kind of the main catalyst, and just spread from there. Very similar to 2008, where Miami kind of got hit first and probably hit the hardest, and then it just trickled down, or not even trickle down, it spread throughout the country from there. But he lost everything. I mean, I'm talking when he died. So can you imagine being one of the, like, literally owning Coral Gables? Like, you know how big of an area that is? I mean, we're talking, some of these guys owned 500,000 to even 1 million acres. That's mind-boggling to own 500,000 acres of Florida land and then to die with nothing, meaning they had just over leveraged everything with debt. And when it came tumbling down and they couldn't pay their interest, they were literally just having to give away stuff. The one guy owned a hotel. So he owned one of the hotels there in Miami, Coral Gables. So just to pay all his hotel people, because he didn't want the hotel to go under, he would just give them an acre a month. Because all he had was land. He had no money. And so he'd be like, hey, just keep doing your job. I cannot afford for this hotel to go under as well. It's the last thing I got. I'll keep giving you an acre every month you work for free. not for free, but instead of me giving you your normal paycheck. It's just mind-boggling what was happening. But there was an interesting part that maybe some people reading it didn't catch. I caught it right away. That this gentleman, the Coral Gables guy, and actually all three of them kind of said this, but it was very specific with his, where he was kind of on his last 10 years of life. A lot of them were massive drinkers and smokers, and who knows what else they're doing. And meaning none of them lived, past 75. And so they were on their last kind of chunk of life, if you will, and they knew it. And they're like, you know what? At least I have my friendships. And it was interesting to hear how they focused on friendships and relationships. And that Coral Gables guy, he ended up going to be a postmaster. He's like, you know what? I'm going to apply to be the postmaster here of Coral Gables or Miami area. I don't recall which one. I thought it was really fascinating. And so he put all his focus when everything was taken from him, meaning, can you imagine having 1 million acres, let's just say in Florida, owning 1 million acres? It seems crazy to even think about. And being one of the wealthiest people. I mean, he's in the newspapers. He could get invited to any party, to having nothing, to the point you're now, trying to apply to be a postmaster. And then realizing the only thing that's really important are the relationships, and all of them, for the most part, ended up, passing away with no money, but did have a ton of friends. I think there were a lot of people that I think respected him because of how just crazy and ballsy they were. But I don't know. To me, I was like, that's really at the core of what's important is the relationships we had. It's the one thing that can't be taken from you, no matter what happens in the real estate market or the stock market or anything for that matter. The one thing that can't be taken from you is your relationships. And that's everything from your relationships with your family, your friends, your neighbors, God, Jesus. And that's the one thing that, not to say it's free, you still have to kind of earn those relationships, but it doesn't cost any money. And it can't just be ripped away from you because of what happens from external stuff. So if you're wondering, all right, what the title of this, Life Only Goes in One Direction, you could probably guess what it is. It keeps getting shorter, right? It keeps getting shorter every single minute. As we're listening to this, our lives are getting shorter. Kind of depressing to think about, but it's true. And instead of it being depressing, it's also uplifting. You say, well, man, you know what? I need to enjoy all my time. I need to work on my relationships. There's some people that keep a death clock on their desk all day. I personally don't want to take it that far and see my life getting counted down by seconds and minutes and days. But it is pretty eye-opening when you think about it that way. And so what is the message? One, to work on relationships. Two, to work on loving people and genuinely caring for people and being nice to people. The one thing that those guys did is they were nice to people. They were actually pretty generous, even though they were pretty power hungry and money hungry and just didn't want to stop. They were very generous with their stuff, and they were giving away land, like I said, not just to help people pay bills, but they were actually very, very generous and loving, which is when they died, they did have massive funerals and a lot of people showed up. And the other part is just taking action. And I'm probably going to do another podcast on taking action here, maybe next or even soon. I think that's one of the most important things that we can do. I talked about the 5-second rule. I continue to hear from so many people, and I'm not going to name names or even tell stories because I've had very recent conversations with these people, and some of them I believe do listen to the podcast. But so many of the issues that they're facing are really because of them not taking action. And meaning, when I'll ask someone, well, what do you think you should do in this situation? And they tell me the answer, and the answer is right. It's 100% right. It's like, well, yeah, that's it. And then it's always like, well, here's the 10 excuses I have. And I'm like, I just want to shake people sometimes. They're not my kids. They're not my siblings. They don't work for me. But sometimes you just wish you could shake someone. They know the answer to literally have more happiness and fulfillment and get what they want. And yet they keep putting these personal roadblocks in front of them, and it's hindering them from having happiness and fulfillment and success. And I don't know, it drives me bonkers when I see that, because once again, life only goes in one direction. Like, what are you waiting for? Your life on here to get shorter? Like, when are you going to do this? you literally told me you know the answer to your biggest problem right now, like the one thing that's keeping them up at night. And maybe this is you. Maybe you know what, like if there's one thing that's been on your mind, maybe you are losing sleep, or you've woken up thinking about it, or you've gone to sleep thinking about it a few nights in a row, and you know what you need to do, and yet you haven't done it. And I've done that. I've done that with even firing employees. That's one that I struggle with. And fortunately, I haven't had to do it here recently. I know I talked about it just on a somewhat recent podcast, and that was for a different reason. We were moving to a third-party fulfillment group, but there have been some people over the years that just weren't a fit. Either they outgrew us, we outgrew them, weren't a fit culturally, whatever it was. It doesn't really even matter. They just weren't a fit. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. Doesn't mean anything except they weren't a fit to work with us. And instead of just ripping the Band-Aid off and doing it, I would literally lose sleep over it for a few nights, sometimes weeks. And I'm like, oh, and then all of a sudden they do okay. And then I make excuses. And, I would talk to like my buddy, Chris, who kind of coaches me on stuff. And he's like, well, what do you think you need to do? And I was like, I need to fire him. And he's like, you definitely need to fire him. He's like, why haven't you done it? And same deal, literally the same thing I just told you about the people, asking me for feedback. I'm like, I keep putting it off, and they got a family, or their spouse is going through some bad stuff health wise, and I just don't want to do it. And he's like, just do it, rip the Band-Aid off. And every time I've done it, man, there's just been this weight lifted off my shoulders, and it was uncomfortable. I remember the one guy I had to let go. His wife was going through cancer, and you might be saying, "Oh, Joe, you're insensitive," or "Man, what a jerk." He should have been fired 2 years before that, and unfortunately, I had waited until the point his wife got cancer, which now I postponed it even longer. And it ended up, he actually thanked me. It took him a while. We were both crying at that one, but he now, and I still keep in touch with him. We're still friends on Facebook, and he'll message me every once in a while. He's now living the best version of his life. I mean, we were literally holding him back. And he actually needed a little season to be with his wife. And because of us letting him go, that gave him that opportunity to do that. His wife was happier. She's still alive. If you're wondering what happened there. And then he was able to land like his dream job where he really thrived, making way more money than I was paying him. And it being a win-win-win-win for everyone. And even our team, even though it really stunk letting go of someone whose wife had cancer, that is just, it's not even, I'm like getting shameful even saying this, but even our team was just kind of relieved because he wasn't a fit. He was holding us back from success and what God was wanting us to do with the company at the time. So all that being said, life only goes in one direction, shorter. We have fewer days every day. We don't know when that day is going to happen, but we know for sure, every day that ticks by is one ticking off of our clock, if you will. So love people, focus on relationships. Remember the story of these tycoons who had it all. Maybe, I've been guilty of this, of having stuff and kind of holding on to it and treasuring sometimes more than relationships, when end of the day, after reading this book, man, relationships were all that mattered. This guy couldn't take any of those, even if he had kept the 1,000,000 acres, he couldn't take any of that with him. It probably would have made his kids miserable anyways, and they all would have been, crazies. Even his kids, in the one story, they talked quite a bit about the daughter, and she was actually thrilled and happier. I know this sounds crazy, but she was actually way happier not having all that pressure and all the stuff. She's like, man, I can now just go live a normal life. And, she was given whatever, 25 acres down there. She was fine anyways. I mean, I'd still take 25 acres in Miami or Coral Gables, wouldn't you? All that being said, it was a really, really interesting tale. If you do love history books or just fascinating books, I would recommend it. Bubble in the Sun. I listened to that one. It's not one that I read because it was pretty long. And a lot of times I'll just get on the treadmill or in my truck and listen to it. But yeah, Bubble in the Sun, how the Florida real estate bubble kind of kicked off the Great Depression. That was also pretty interesting because I never really correlated those two together. Obviously, I wasn't around back then. And I just thought it was more stock market stuff. Like, no, it was the real estate bubble that led to, the stock market falling apart and I don't know, fascinating book. So anyhow, I wanted to share that with you. Life only goes in one direction, shorter, AKA it's shrinking. So take action, love people, work on the relationships, focus on the relationships. That is really all that matters at the end. So like always, I hope this hit the right person. if you are one of the people I talked about who recently shared a story, know that I never share any of that stuff. If you ever have anything to share, it's always 100% confidential. But sometimes I do kind of just share the story in general, just so we can all learn from it, because we've all been there. I mean, I told you times where I've been there personally, literally doing the exact opposite of the advice I'm giving right now. So love you guys. Hope this was helpful. And if there's any prayer request, anything I could do to help you in any way, let me know. Joe@saltstrong.com. Otherwise, I will talk to you on the next episode. Peace. We out.
Want more fishing tips, shortcuts, and tools so you can catch more fish per trip? Then head over to saltstrong.com now and join the movement. Tight lines, and thanks for listening.